Japan is hyper competitive here, you know, 117, 118, so, you know, exports are strong, and we'd expect them to be strong. You know, you couple that with, you know, an oil price which is, what, less than $50, 44, 45. You know, Japan is in a good place. I mean, you know, the oil imports have been a huge drag, certainly on, you know, domestic spending, manufacturing costs. So all of a sudden, you know, this is a huge tax cut for Japan, essentially. Right. So we would expect, you know, hopefully this year that we'll move from the export sector into the domestic sector and get a little bit of growth there too. So, yeah, good.
Good. Mark, say hi to Carrie over there in Tokyo.
Good morning, Carrie.
Hi, Mark. How much do you think the equity market has factored in the possibility of higher guidance from many of these corporates? Because they pretty much lowballed at the start of this year. It's time that they're going to start upgrading, right?
No, I think it's absolutely right. I think, you know, consensus expectations are way too low for Japanese earnings generally. So we're looking for some positive surprises here.
Positive where? Where do you think the biggest positive surprise is going to spring out from?
Well, I think in the first example, we'd be looking for those, you know, kind of weak yen translation gains for the exporters, certainly. I mean, you know, given the fact that certainly guidance from manufacturers, the kind of forex assumptions, if you will, have been very, very low. We gather between 105 and 108, so, you know, you'd expect a considerable boost to earnings just from that. Right. It's quite interesting. I mean, we think the analyst community is a little bit behind the curve here, so look for some surprises.
Yeah. Carrie?
Abe is counting on this whole trickle-down effect, that big companies like Toyota are going to revise upwards, raise wages, and eventually that's going to trickle down to the smaller and medium-sized companies. Do you see that do you really see that playing out this year, or is it a little bit premature to expect some of the smaller companies to benefit?
Well, I think, you know, a lot of the companies, certainly in, you know, kind of the SMEs, you know, the majority employer in Japan, I think they're still a little bit wary of raising wages here, so we'll have to wait and see. It really depends on the Shinto negotiations in spring, which kind of set the tone for the year. You know, talk is of a 2% rise. It doesn't seem to be moving the needle that much for me. We'll have to wait and see.
What about the 4 out of every 10 people who are not considered part of the permanent job structure? Because there are a lot of, you know, there's a lot of at-will employment.
Well, you're talking about essentially, you know, the people that are on kind of part-time and or, you know, not permanent employees of the companies. My guess is that given the tightness generally within the Japanese job market, that there will be pressure, upward pressure on wages almost naturally going forward. Whether or not you'll see that this year, or as Carrie suggests, it's more of a story for next year, is yet to be seen. I would suggest a little bit of caution there.